Cardano finally has a real Circle-backed stablecoin, not wrapped, not bridged through a third party, not synthetic, actual USDC infrastructure. But here's the real question. Does this meaningfully change anything, or is it too late? Today, we're breaking down USDCx on Cardano, how it works, what's actually live on-chain, and whether this unlocks real institutional capital or just adds another ticker to the ecosystem. But before we head into that, let me share a quick reminder. This is not a financial video, and I am not a professional advisor. Please do your own research before making any decisions. Let's dive right in. Let's start with the facts. No hype, just infrastructure. USDCx is not a new stablecoin. It's an extension of USDC onto Cardano using Circle's X reserve system. Here's the key distinction. This is not a wrapped token, not a third-party bridge, and not dependent on external custodians. Instead, it's Circle-backed and redeemable 1:1. When you deposit USDC on Ethereum into X Reserve, an equivalent amount of USDCx is minted on Cardano. When you burn USDCx, you can redeem back to native USDC on Ethereum. So what you're really looking at here is intraparable stablecoin liquidity, not a token launch. Let's break the mechanism down step by step. USDC is deposited into X Reserve on Ethereum. USDCx is minted 1:1 on Cardano. The USDCx can be used across Cardano DeFi. When burned, USDC is released backed on Ethereum. This flow is enabled by Circle Infrastructure, CCTP or Cross-Chain Transfer Protocol, and Circle Gateway. It is important to emphasize the key idea here is trust minimized and interoperability. There is no third-party bridge holding your assets hostage. Instead, redemption is handled through Circle-backed reserves. Compare this to how USDC exists on other chains. Some rely on canonical issuance, others depend on bridges. Some still rely on liquidity assumptions. This model sits somewhere different. It prioritizes redeemability and institutional trust over speed or composability. This is where things get interesting. Institutional capital doesn't deploy into ecosystem without a trusted stablecoin. That's just a baseline requirement. Before this, Cardano didn't have one. Now it does. A Circle-backed stablecoin changes the evaluation framework for asset managers, treasury allocators, DeFi funds, and payment infrastructure players. The key point is, this doesn't guarantee capital inflows, but it removes a hard blocker. Without stablecoin infrastructure, TVL has a ceiling. With it, at least theoretically, that ceiling changes. Now, let's talk about what actually matters. On-chain evidence. Because narratives don't grow TVL. Liquidity does. This is early, and that's important. We're looking at signals, not conclusions. Here's what you should be watching right now. USDCx supply outstanding. Pool depth across top decks. Mint versus burn activity, liquidity detention over 7 days, and Cardano DEX volume week over week. If supply is growing but not being used, that's park capital. If mint and burn are active, that suggests real flow. If liquidity stays in pools, that indicates stickiness. Right now, the data is still forming. So far, this looks like early stage liquidity seeding, not yet a full active DeFi cycle. Let's address the obvious criticism. Isn't this too late? Ethereum, Solana, and others already dominate stablecoin liquidity. So what's the case for Cardano now? This is a valid concern. Liquidity tends to cluster where activity already exists, and Cardano is starting from behind. However, infrastructure changes precede capital flows, not the other way around. You don't get institutional adoption first, you build the rail first. Second issue here is usage. If USDCx isn't actively used in lending, trading, or payments, it doesn't matter how clean the infrastructure is. So the real test isn't launch, it's retention, usage, and growth over time. Beyond DeFi, this is where USDC becomes more than just liquidity. USDC is a payment rail. That means remittances, payroll, cross-border transfers, on-chain commerce. These use cases require price stability, redeemability, and trust in the issuer. That's why Circle matters here. If Cardano can capture even a fraction of real-world stablecoin flows, that's a different growth vector than pure DeFi speculation. Timing also matters here. There's currently a short-term fee subsidy window, 10-day bridge fee subsidy ending soon, followed by 90 days of reduced cost with roughly $1.70 mint cost as a pass-through. No extra fees taken by IOG. This is just one thing. They want liquidity in fast, which makes sense because early liquidity is what defines whether a new rail gets adopted or ignored. So here's the bottom line. USDCx doesn't guarantee Cardano's growth, but it removes one of its biggest structural limitations. For the first time, Cardano has a credible stablecoin, institutional grade rails, and interoperable USDC liquidity. Now the question shifts from what's missing to will anyone actually use it, and that will be decided on chain. If you want updates as the data evolves, minting activity, liquidity flows, rail usage, hit like, subscribe, and follow along because this story isn't about launch. It's about what happens next. Thanks for watching and see you in the next.